racing's action-packed. I've had a lot of fun, had some great battles, and we're leading the championship with 2 rounds to go. So actually going back to Bathurst again in a different car will be a cool challenge, and I guess the target will be in my back as we go back to Bathurst. So going there as a championship leader and off the back of winning the 1000, I think I've put a very big target on my back.
Hey folks, do you love your footy? Are you over 35 and want to be part of something very special on Anzac Day in 2025 in Gallipoli? Well, check this out.
The Slugs plan to play men's and women's games here at this soccer ground, the closest to the Gallipoli battlefields during the 2025 commemorations. The idea to make it spectacular, to fill this entire area with Aussie Anzac pilgrims. Vincent Malia tours with the Southern Slugs. Footy, he says, is perfect to honour the Diggers.
They would love it, I'm sure, because it's bringing Australia over there, isn't it?
Well, what an absolute pleasure it is to have the one and only Todd Hazelwood, the co-winning driver of Bathurst, can you believe it? And he's an SA boy as well. It's great to have you, and thanks again for giving up your time. And how does that feel to actually be, as I said before, the co-winning driver of what probably the biggest race in motorsport in Australia?
Yeah, no, thank you, mate. It's great to be back and reconnect once again. But to now call myself a Bathurst champion, winner of the great race, absolute dream come true. Couldn't be happier. Still can't wipe the smile off my face talking about it 1 week later. It's it means so much to me and my family and everyone else involved with the team as well at Erebus Motorsport, and to do it with a good friend of Brodie Kostecki as well makes, I guess, it even sweeter. So we had an absolute dream weekend, really. The car and the team were faultless, and both Brodie and I essentially did somewhat of a faultless job behind the wheel as well. So we led from start to finish. We achieved what was the fastest finishing Bathurst 1000, just under the 6-hour bracket, which hasn't been done before. So sort of etched our name into history in more ways than one, but to now call myself the 66th winner of the great race and put my name into that Peter Brock trophy is, an absolute boyhood dream come true. And I'll be, taking that to the grave, that's for sure.
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy. And as you mentioned before, you still can't wipe that smile off your face. It's so good to see. And seeing those celebrations after the race as well. Tell us about those, because it must have been a pretty big night, Toddy.
It was a lot of fun, and just to be able to share that excitement with the team throughout the whole night, and that experience being on the podium was so cool. It sort of started out as a bit of a late night. So by the time we finished packing the transport and the truck up, essentially packing up all of our garages, we got the car from the scrutineers because they do all the checks on the car, make sure it's all compliant. So by the time we actually sort of finished packing up and getting ready to celebrate, it was sort of around 10:30, 11 o'clock. So it was quite a late start. But we had a lot of fun, and I think we only got about 45 minutes sleep before we had to front up to the media Monday morning to do the live cross for sunrise. And I tell you what, the brain wasn't working too well at all. At that stage of the morning, I was physically and emotionally exhausted, running off fumes, so to speak. And I wasn't feeling too well. But no, we enjoyed it. We enjoyed the win, enjoyed the victory, because it's been a long time coming for me. I've been working my ass off essentially for 20 years to try and achieve a moment like this in my career, and to finally get it, you got to celebrate it, because you just never know when it might happen again, or if it even happens at all. So it was very cool, and it's just awesome even talking about it. To be honest, it's really cool.
And the race itself, because as you mentioned before, you did it in under 6 hours, and that's a hell of a lot of driving, and there wasn't many stops along the way either, because I know you've sort of done a couple other interviews, as you mentioned, Todd, that I've listened to, and normally there's a few stops along the way. There might be some bingles and different safety cars coming out and what have you, but there wasn't hardly any stops at all. So I can imagine you would have been pretty excited, but pretty knackered as well at the end of the race, both of you.
Yeah, exactly. The intensity of the race was the highest I've ever experienced in any Bathurst, because as you mentioned, we didn't have any breaks. You don't get any breathers, and it'd be like a football player doing laps of the oval all day, not stopping. It was sort of that same mentality, trying to keep yourself focused and in a rhythm, and try not to break that cycle, because as we know as drivers, as soon as you have a little lapse of the mind, or you get distracted, or something happens, and that's when you stick the car in the fence and in the wall. And And to be honest, us as drivers, we actually expected the race to be quite chaotic because what we saw in the lead up to the race, particularly in practice and qualifying, we saw a lot of incidents, cars running off, hitting the wall, some big hits across the top of the mountain. So we sort of expected Sunday. I think there was a few drivers were talking just before the national anthem started, before the race started off on Sunday morning, and there was a couple of us said, "Oh, it's just going to be one of those crazy days." It sort of had that feeling about it, but it was the complete opposite as far as, I guess, action. But yeah, the intensity and the speed of the race was next level. And obviously for us as a team to go that whole, I think it was only up to it was past lap 120 before we saw our first safety car, which is unheard of. And it was the only one for the whole race. So yeah, you get no rest, no time to relax and sort of reset your belts and grab your breath back and have a drink. It's just, yeah, fully focused that whole way. So I guess the appreciation for the race, yes, it may have not been the most exciting race from, I guess, action craziness going on, but I think as pure intensity, lights to finish sort of hardcore race, it was probably the best we've ever seen in the history of the sport, which was really cool.
And how does it actually work in terms of how did you get partnered up with Brodie? Yeah, very curious about how that all works, Todd.
Yeah, so for me, Brodie and I actually go back a few years ago. So Brodie, when I first got to know Brodie, he was fresh out of the United States racing over there as a pretty young kid, and we actually become housemates for a couple of years in 2017 and 2018. So we were teammates back in 2017 when I won the Super 2 championship, and that was his first year driving a supercar. And I guess roles reversed, end of last year, I had a torrid Bathurst 2023, and I was basically parked on the sidelines as a full-time driver. So yeah, Brodie called me up and he said he put his best foot forward to try and get me a gig at Erebus. And Barry Ryan called me up, at the team principal at the time and now CEO of the team. Basically said, we want you as our co-driver based on what Brodie's told us. You're the pick of the lot. And I was signed up before the end of the season at 2023. So there was a very clear ambition for the team to go one better. They finished second last year and they went one better and did the job this year to be first. So from a team point of view, it was very satisfying. And for Brodie and I, as I said, it's a dream come true. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Our enduro campaign, we actually had an event before Bathurst, the Sandown 500, a very historical event as well. And I was partnered up with Brodie there, and we're actually in for race-winning contention there as well. We're certainly on track for a podium. And things didn't go our way. I had a puncture when I was in the car running third, and we actually got the car back into podium contention later in the race, and we actually had an alternator failure, which put us out of our misery at the end. So there was a whole new level of motivation going to Bathurst to try and be better as a team, make the car better, be better as drivers, and execute the job. And we certainly did that come race day. So it was super satisfying for that as well. Some, I guess, level of redemption coming from Sandown. So it was, a very sweet feeling.
And this year as well, you're not sort of part of the main race, other than, of course, as you mentioned, Bathurst and Sandown. You're actually part of the Trans Am series, and you're actually going along quite nicely, Todd. And you've got 2 races to go. One is actually back at Bathurst, which is quite ironic. And then to finish off with how good in the wonderful South Australia as part of the Vailo Adelaide 500.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a change of scenery for me as a driver. I've been really enjoying my racing, and I had a new challenge and a new opportunity to join the Trans Am series. So for the people that don't know what the Trans Am series is, it's essentially a glorified NASCAR racing here in Australia. So it's an American product. So we actually drive on the left-hand side. We've got a H-pattern gearbox. So we go across the gate. It's only a 4-speed gearbox as opposed to a 6-speed gearbox in a supercar. With an LS1 engine, roughly making around 515 horsepower, and they weigh about 1,200 kilos. So the power to weight's actually quite impressive for a big, heavy car, and they slide around a lot on what they call a rag tyre, a Hoosier tyre, cross-ply tyre. So the racing's action-packed. I've had a lot of fun, had some great battles, and we're leading the championship with 2 rounds to go. So actually going back to Bathurst again in a different car will be a cool challenge, and I guess the target will be in my back as we go back to Bathurst. So going there as a championship leader and off the back of winning the 1,000, I think I've put a very big target on my back. So we'll see how we go. And then, finishing off our series at the Adelaide 500, Portobello Vailo there, which would be fantastic. It's, as you know, I'm a proud South Aussie. So to get back home, race on the streets of Adelaide, and hopefully we can try and stitch together a championship victory, which would, cap off what would be an impeccable 2024 season for us.
And what makes the Adelaide 500 track so special to you? I know you mentioned before you're a South Aussie, but even so many drivers you hear, Todd, even not even South Australian, just love the Adelaide 500 track.
Yeah, it is so well regarded, not only here in Australia, but around the world. Obviously, we had the opportunity in Adelaide back when we had the Australian Grand Prix for Formula One, and it was so well regarded by not only the drivers, but also the personnel as an event. Everyone, I've been pretty fortunate now to speak with some people that worked in Formula One in the late 80s and early 90s, and they all said like Adelaide was the one event that they all looked forward to. Traveling around the world, Adelaide was the one that they loved most. So it's pretty cool to hear that, especially when you're a South Aussie. And I guess you don't know what's different because you always get used to it being in your own backyard. But yeah, for me as a driver, Adelaide is a very close second to Bathurst as far as intensity behind the wheel and the challenge that is provided. Obviously, Bathurst is unique for so many reasons. We talk about the elevation and the speed, but Adelaide is unique on a basis where it's a street circuit. You literally got to throw the car over massive curbs, different changes in sealant, and the challenge of itself is what we call a proper balls to the wall circuit. You got to be committed to be fast, and you got to be almost prepared to write the car off just so you can put a lap time together. So the guys at the front, you got to dip your hat to them, and because there's ones that are really, I guess, taking a high risk and putting it all on the line to be fast, which is, I guess as a spectator, it's fantastic, but also as a driver, it gives us a great buzz, a great feeling, and a huge shot of adrenaline.
And in terms of you mentioned before, you're leading the Trans Am series at the moment. Is there ambitions to get back into the main race in 2025, Todd? And what sort of hurdles do you have to jump over to do that?
Yeah, the biggest thing trying to become a main driver in our Supercars Championship is that there's only 24 spots available. So it's essentially 1 in a million here in the country to try and break back into the championship. I've been really fortunate to be at the top tier of the sport for 7 years as a main driver. But I guess the biggest thing for me, what I learned out of that 7-year period is that if you're going to do it properly or don't do it at all. So that was a big, I guess, call for me last year to walk away from being full-time and to actually reposition myself as a co-driver to give myself the best chance of winning 2 races as opposed to having 12 rounds of frustration working with an organisation that may not be able to achieve anything. So yeah, that was a big thing for me and getting back to what I want to do. And that's winning races, being successful as a driver and making the most of the opportunities I get. So yeah, next year I'll still be co-driving. Where that is, I'm still undecided, but I've been really fortunate to have been provided with such an amazing opportunity from Erebus Motorsport, and but also Brodie's moving on at the end of this year as well from Erebus. So I got a tough decision to make over the next week or so, and where my destiny lies next year is we'll wait and see.
I'm sure it'd be wonderful to see anyway what happens going forward. And like you said before, you can never take away that Bathurst win anyway. So
yeah, exactly. I'll be taking this Bathurst win to the grave with me. And every time someone says I'm a Bathurst winner, it's going to crack a smile on my face, I'm sure, because as I said, it means so much to me, more ways than one. And it's essentially been a career, over 20 years worth of sacrifice and dedication and hard work, and to achieve a moment like this in my life. So yeah, couldn't be happier.
I want to get back to growing up, because you mentioned before you've definitely had some huge challenges along the way, and we talk about the Bunnings sausages. That many people know that story where you had to basically cook sausages to make money to be able to then go towards your motorsport career, and then your parents gave up so much as well to basically put their life on the line to help you out as well. But yeah, talk about the sacrifices that you all had to make to be able to achieve what you have, Todd, and I guess what it means to you, like you mentioned, to win Bathurst, and I guess it must mean so much to your family as well that they've been able to achieve it all together, considering all those sacrifices.
Yeah, 100%. It's definitely I guess when I say the win means more than anything to me, because there's so many people that have been committed on this journey with me, whether that's my family, my support network, friends, family, sponsors, members, you name it. Like there's thousands of people that I could literally list off the top of my tongue that have helped contribute to my racing career over the years. It's a long list of people, and that's probably the one thing that I guess a lot of people don't see in motorsport from the outside looking in, is how hard it is to not only have a taste of the top tier of the sport, but even taste success. It takes a huge amount of work, money, and dedication. And couldn't thank all those people enough. So yeah, to finally achieve a moment in my career where I feel like I've achieved at the highest level, it's a way of me saying thank you to those people as well that have contributed over those years. And obviously, yeah, to my family in particular, to my mum, dad, and my sister, like, yeah, those younger years when I was growing up, even 3 years young as go-karts, they sacrificed so much. You know, mum and dad essentially sacrificed their livelihoods, all their income. They didn't have any holidays, they didn't have any romantic dinners or anything. Everything went into racing. So it's very hard when you're in an industry where you have to be so selfish and you have to rely on so many people to make it happen. So yeah, for me, I'll be forever grateful for the sacrifices that my mum and dad made, and my sister, and yeah, to all the people that supported me along the way. Yeah, a big thank you to them as well.
And when did that passion first begin with wanting to be a motorsport driver, Todd? And I know you sort of loved your go-karts, but yeah, was that through family as well or through friends? And how did you first really get into it?
Yeah, it all started at a very tender age. I guess you could say, born into a motorsport mad family. My dad was crazy on two wheels, and he used to do desert racing and motorbikes. But he broke his back just before I was born, so two wheels were banned in the Hazelwood household at home. And yeah, so mum said she'd either divorce dad or if he brought another motorbike. So hence why he never brought another motorbike, I guess. But yeah, so yeah, four wheels become the new attraction, and mum and dad were both Ford family, or Ford through and through, I guess if you call it. So I was very much brought up as a one-eyed Ford supporter growing up as a kid. And yeah, we love motorsports. So if we weren't going to the track up Malala and Collingrove hill climbs on weekends, I was watching, VHS tapes of, Bathurst and any sort of other sort of motorsport style sort of documentaries or anything. I was actually quite obsessed as a kid. I just loved the sport, loved the history. And yeah, I didn't know anything different, I guess. So by the time I turned 7, I got my first go-kart, and I guess I was obviously obsessed with the sport, but very, very competitive from a young age. I always wanted to win. I hated losing. I still remember the conversation Dad having with me as a young 8-year-old, and he said, "Son, you're gonna have to learn how to lose one day because you can't always win." So it's funny how you evolve throughout those years. But I guess for me as a young age, I was always wired to win and always wanted to race and didn't care what it was, long as it was fast, and gave me a rush of adrenaline.
And also, I heard as well that your partner Alice, that you've been with for I think 6 or 7 years now, her parents have a go-kart track as well. So I can imagine, you mentioned before you've got that competitive spirit. I can imagine you'd want to beat Alice, or so you sort of, are you nice to her? How's that work?
Yeah, exactly. No, I guess it's funny how two great minds think alike between Alice and I. We're both very competitive no matter what we do. So whether that's walking the shopping trolley together or racing go-karts out on track. So yeah, we have a lot of fun together. Yeah, she was actually racing just on the weekend, and I was pit crewing for her. I was on the spanners. So yeah, I guess that's our romantic weekend away is going to the racetrack together. So yeah, it's really cool to share that love and passion with someone that feels the same about it. So otherwise, I don't think I'd be able to do what I do, spend the weeks and hours and time away chasing my dreams while she's at home or she's at work. So yeah, it's nice to have someone, I guess, that appreciates and understands what I'm trying to achieve, and we sort of complement each other that way as well. So yeah, we have a lot of fun together. It's good fun.
And where did you first meet? Was it actually through the motorsport side of things, or was it another outside situation?
It was at the racetrack. So yeah, we haven't looked back since. Yeah.
What was date number 1, Toddy?
It was 7 years ago now. So the first time we met was at the racetrack, and then the second time I guess we hung out was at the racetrack again as well. So I think our proper first time away from the racetrack together was actually at Dreamworld. So that was actually, I think might have been my 21st or 22nd birthday at the time. So a long time ago now, but yeah, it was good times.
I want to ask you about, you've just given me a good reminder as well, because you're absolute maniacs, you guys, I swear. Males and females that do motorsport, and the speed that you get up to, it scared the absolute crap out of me for sure. But are you like one of those daredevils that would just be happy to jump out of a plane and go bungee jumping and all that sort of thing? Because I can imagine you'd have to be pretty crazy to do what you do.
Look, to be honest, I'm a bit of a scaredy cat when it comes to not being in control. I love speed. I love the thrill of driving something fast, but if I'm in the passenger seat, I hate it. I do not. I feel ill. Like, get me out of the thing quick. You couldn't get me out of the car quick enough. So, yeah, I'm very much a control freak. So, yeah, the idea of jumping out of a plane and parachuting, yeah, no thanks. It's not for me. My girlfriend Alice, on the other hand, she's an absolute daredevil, and we went to when we raced in New Zealand a couple of years ago. She took me to the Nevis Falls, which is the largest bungee jump in the Southern Hemisphere. So to do that for the first time, I was shitting myself, to say the least. I was sort of in denial the whole time that I was actually going to do it, and I think I nearly forgot how to jump when I actually jumped off. So yeah, she brings the worst out of me sometimes, I think. But yeah, I'll definitely stick to being on the ground and four wheels, thanks. Yeah.
That's crazy. Far out. How high up were you when you're doing the bungee?
Oh, too high. I don't know. I don't want to know the number, but it was friggin' frightening, I tell you.
Have you ever done the shark dive? Would you do that?
It's funny. I've actually paid to do shark diving, but we didn't do it because there was no shark sightings. So yeah, that was the only other thing that was on Alice's bucket list that she wanted to do. So that was her birthday present last year and Christmas present. So yeah, we yet to do it though. So we are booked in to go to Port Lincoln and yeah, chuck myself into some bait. We'll see how we go.
I love that. And obviously, yeah, it's pretty competitive on the racetrack, but you built up some pretty good friendships along the way. But who are some of the funny drivers and why, Todd? I'd like to hear some stories about the characters.
Yeah, there's definitely a few characters in our sport. Yeah, I've got to know a few of the drivers over the years, and I guess been arch rivals with some of them as well. And I guess yeah, to the first one that you roll off the tip of the tongue is probably Brodie. You know, he's a pretty quick-witted character, and he doesn't hold back in what he says sometimes. So Brodie and I get along really well, which is cool. But yeah, probably the exceptions out of that, you know, definitely Chaz Mostert. He's an absolute gem of a bloke. What you see is what you get with Chaz, you know, whether it's on TV or behind the scenes as well. So yeah, he's a true blue character and a bit of a larrikin, which is cool. So yeah, there's a few other drivers as well they get along with, and like Jack Labrokov, we're actually very fierce rivals back in, especially in Super 2 days, and we actually butted head a few times. But I think we started to work out that we're quite similar in some respects as well. So yeah, got to form a pretty good relationship with him as well over the years. Bit of a bromance, I guess, if you call it. So yeah, we hang out away from the track from time to time and grab a beer here and there. So yeah, no, it's good.
And Chaz, I heard, was a bit of a prankster as well. Is that, am I correct in saying that he's one known for playing a few pranks on other drivers and that?
Yeah, he can play a prank here or there. So yeah, he's as I said, he's a gem of a bloke, and you know he dyes his hair pretty much any color for any sort of foundation or cancer or whatever it might be to try and help raise funds. So yeah, he's just a true character, and yeah, hopefully our sport will get more people like that in it, because yeah, sometimes it's important to get away from being Mr. Serious and letting your hair down, having a bit of fun as well, because that's what it's all about. Is you got to have fun along the way. So yeah, it's an important part of it all.
Yeah, absolutely love that. And how do you keep so fit as well? Because like I mentioned before, 6 hours is a very long time to be in a car between two drivers. But I can imagine you do a fair bit of spending time in the gym and running and that sort of thing. What's your training regime like in the lead up to Bathurst, Todd?
Yeah, I guess there's two things. I guess trying to keep race sharp is the hardest part, because we don't have the luxury of just driving a race car whenever we want. And we don't have test days. We don't have an abundance of test days either. We only get 2 test days for the whole season. So we're very limited, I guess, to feel comfortable in the cars. So hence why I actually do a lot of go-karting behind the scenes. Go-karting is fantastic because it's high intensity. Yeah, it's very hard on the body. There's no ABS, there's no traction control, there's no power steering. It's a very raw piece of material to drive flat out. So the go-karting keeps me, I guess, from keeping my reflexes and match fitness, so to speak, is very good. And using the simulator to complement that as well. But I guess, yeah, outside of that, just a lot of high intensity workouts in the gym, a lot of laps around the oval, riding the push bike, all that sort of stuff. Whatever you can do to try and help complement the race car as much as possible. But you see that unique thing, you want to be strong, but you got to be lean as well, because the more muscle you put on, it slows down your reflexes, and you don't want to be too bulky inside the race car. So yeah, it's definitely a fine compromise, but yeah, I try to mix it up as much as I can. So the gym that I got to, I'm pretty lucky. It's got a pool there as well, so I do a lot of swimming and yeah, just try to enjoy my training as much as you can because we do a lot of it. So it's very easy to get sort of, I guess, fed up with the training. You get sick and tired of feeling sore all the time and the late early mornings and the late nights of training. But it all makes it worthwhile when you get a win like Bathurst.
Oh, 100%. And a friend of mine, or a mutual friend of ours, Jason Castleman, a big South Adelaide fan here in South Australia, and done a wonderful thing with the South Adelaide Panthers as a mascot, Kingston, for a number of years. And I don't know how he does it, but even in the outfit, he runs the Sydney Bay for 12 Ks wearing that outfit, which would be so warm. But yeah, tell us about your meeting up with Jace over there at Bathurst, how cool that was, and what his friendship means to you as well.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, Jason's an absolute, again, another gem of a bloke, and proud South Aussie, as you mentioned. And yeah, he's been coming to our fundraiser barbecues at Mitre 10 for many, many years now, and comes all the way from South Adelaide all the way over to Glen to just come and buy a snag and support us. So yeah, he's been a long-term supporter of mine, and yeah, to see him pop up at Bathurst was really cool. So yeah, he was the first man in front of line at the merchandise signing where we were. Yeah, we had an activation there of Chico Rolls where we're selling Chico Rolls and signing posters and stuff over the course of the Bathurst weekend. And yeah, he was there front and center, ready to be lined up. I think he was lined up for over an hour and handed over a nice little gift as well, which meant a lot to me. So yeah, it's really cool to, I guess, to feel that support from our support network. We have, we're really lucky as drivers where we've got amazing fans all the way around the country. And yeah, to have that level of support is really cool.
Tell us about your growing up life in your backyard, and you mentioned before that Alice's parents have a go-kart track. Was there anything like that similar in the household of Todd Hazelwood back in the day?
No, we had a pretty small yard growing up as a kid, so Dad loved his lawn, and that was his pride and joy, I guess. So, and I love my cricket. So my second sport to go-karts at the time when I was growing up as a kid was cricket. So I was mowing a bit of a pitch in the backyard, and me and my mates always used to play backyard cricket, after school or on spare weekends in between racing. So yeah, that was definitely the childhood memories growing up as a kid and making that transition from, I guess, junior cricket to, I guess, high school cricket. Using the red ball, and yeah, I don't think the neighbours appreciated me doing ball after ball, firing a hardball cricket ball straight into the back fence every 10 or 20 seconds. So yeah, eventually with my grandpa actually sort of made a Hessian cricket net in the backyard there for a while. So yeah, the backyard certainly had a few evolutions over the years as far as the cricket pitch was concerned. But yeah, a lot of Australia Day barbecue parties and playing cricket matches in the backyard was a lot of fun.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. They were the best days growing up. The old backyard cricket games, or playing on the road as well. Remember that as a kid? When you just have everyone just come and join in.
We actually lived on a bit of a hill, so yeah, playing cricket on a hill was not that much fun because if the wicketkeeper missed it, or if one of our mates got onto one well, it went straight flying down the hill, and we never saw the ball again. So yeah, we stuck our cricket to the backyard instead. Yeah.
And even now, do you and the boys get out there and have a bit of a hit? You and some of the drivers?
No, I've dislocated my right shoulder. So every time I try to ball a cricket ball now, my arm goes with it instead. So I think my cricket days are done, unfortunately. But yeah, I still got my mates back in Adelaide. They're all heavily into their AFL. So I always say can't wait to go kick the footy with them. And the last thing they want to do is go kick the footy because they do it every day of the week. So yeah, it's one of those things, I guess, when you different walks of life, and we all got different paths as we get older. But yeah, always catch up with my mates when I get home, and it's always cool. You always know your best friends are your most loyal ones because I don't see them for 8 or 9 months, or sometimes over a year, and you catch up like it was just yesterday. So it's it's cool to still have those friendships that stem back all the way to my primary school years.
So if you had a footy team, would it be the Power or the Crows?
Tough one. Yeah, I sort of sit on the fence. I like to support both, being a South Aussie. I've probably skewed more towards Port Adelaide, getting to know Charlie Dixon. He's a bit of an avid car man himself, and got to know him over the last few years. So he's a cool dude. So I've been certainly cheering him on with Port Adelaide, which is it was obviously so close, but not quite with the finals here this year. But maybe next year we might see a South Aussie team in the finals. Yeah,
I love that, and good choice. I'm back for Port as well, and work for the Port Adelaide sample side. So yeah, great bunch of lads down there. And you're right, Charlie Dixon, absolute ripper.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah.
very good.
I've got a question for you from my absolute legend of a producer, Rory, here at PodBooth, and he wants to know, is it true that you mismatch your socks as a bit of a superstition for your races? And is it true as well that you keep a stuffed animal in your race car as well?
No, I don't know where you heard the stuffed animal one. That's a quirky one, but that's definitely not me. I don't do anything weird with stuffed animals in my race car, that's for sure. Yeah, I do actually. I don't odd sock, but I actually double sock, which for some drivers find a little bit weird. I've had teammates in the past who are like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I've always worn 2 pairs of socks in supercars, so yeah, it's something that I've always done, and I probably won't stop doing it. I guess it works for me, so I'll keep doing it. Yeah.
Must be hot though, especially in those cars, because yeah, it gets pretty it gets pretty warm in those cars. Well, and some pretty warm days, especially in Adelaide. Around this time of year.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that was probably the start of the reason why I started to double sock, because the heat in your pedal box in particular is so hot. Because if you can imagine where the engine's based, all that heat soak comes into the firewall, and essentially you got a set of extractors and exhaust system basically running right underneath where your pedals are. So all that heat soak goes into the pedals, and because you've got so much pedal force, your right foot is either on the throttle or it's on the brake. It doesn't get any rest, and the left foot is essentially bracing the body on the heel stop or on the clutch pedal. So you've always got, I guess, a level of pressure or force being pushed onto particularly your right foot. So yeah, I've had races in the past, particularly at the Adelaide 500 circuit, because the track itself becomes like a hot tunnel. The hot air doesn't escape because it's always, that all that hot air sort of sits where the concrete walls are, and you feel like you just can't breathe after a while. So yeah, it's one thing having hot, dirty air, but then the heat of the car and the exhaust and everything. So yeah, we've actually seen in the past where some drivers get blisters on their feet and all that sort of stuff just because they will get so hot. So I guess further as to the reason as to why I wear 2 socks. Yeah.
Great way of explaining it. Beautifully done. Hey, Todd Hazelwood, thank you so much for joining us again on Legends with Bevo. Mate, you're always so good with giving up your time, and I look forward to meeting you or catching up in person again. And well done once again to you and Brodie on being the co-drivers for Bathurst of 2024, the winning co-drivers. An amazing achievement and something you should be very proud of.
Yeah, thank you, Bevo. It's, as I said, an absolute dream come true, and couldn't be happier. And yeah, great to share it with you once again, and great to catch up. So thanks for your time, Bevo. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, mate. Thank you so much.